Welcome back, everybody. Today, I'm going to be answering your questions that you sent me via Instagram, and I have got some great questions to go over today. So this is going to be a really cool Q&A. So let's just dive right in. The first question, I would like to lose 15 kilograms. Where do I start without getting overwhelmed? This is such a great question because this is a big problem, I think, for so many people, is that they try to do too much right out of the gate. And in fact, they do get overwhelmed. And when you get overwhelmed, you often get paralyzed and you end up not doing anything, or you don't do anything very well. You're just trying to change so many things. And I think especially when you have significant weight to lose, even more than 15 kilograms, that can be super overwhelming. So here's what I tell everyone to do. I think the first thing is we gotta understand there's no timeline to this. If you can get rid of any kind of expectation for a timeline, you're already setting yourself up for success. That's the first thing. Now, with that in mind, what I'd love for you to do is two things. One regarding your nutrition, one regarding your training. So regarding your nutrition, instead of weighing all your food right now, tracking every little thing, using MyFitnessPal, especially if you're new to all of that. If you're new to tracking and weighing, don't do any of that to start. Instead, get out a sheet of paper. You can even use a book like this or whatever, but get out a piece of paper and a pen and literally write down every single thing that you eat or drink throughout the course of a day. You don't have to measure it, you don't have to weigh it, you just write it down. So if you had a bag of chips, you're gonna put down bag of chips. You're gonna write down every bite, everything that goes into your mouth. And the reason for this is because it's going to make you more aware of what you consume every single day. And that's where you have to start. You need to become honestly aware of how much food you're consuming. Because what you're gonna find is when you do this every day, literally writing it down every day, you will start making different decisions based on the fact that you don't wanna write it down, or you're noticing that you're eating a whole lot of handfuls of something during the course of the day. You'll start cutting those back maybe. It's just bringing awareness, and you're gonna make different decisions because of that. So that's a great way to start. It's accessible to everyone, no matter how much weight you have to lose or what experience you have with tracking or whatever. It's a great place to start. The other place I would recommend you start with your training, especially if you're new to training, is walk. Make walking a priority for you every single day, regardless of weather, regardless of desire for you to go out there and do it, you do it. It becomes a non-negotiable. It is one of those things that you do even when you don't want to do it. And it doesn't have to be for long. It could be for 5 minutes, make it 10, make it 15. It will expand as you go maybe. But the whole point of this is to get you into a routine of doing something to benefit your health every single day. When that becomes part of your routine, then you can start exploring other avenues of exercise, such as maybe you want to do some strength training. You don't know where to start with that. By the end of a day, make sure you've done 25 squats and 25 push-ups by the end of a day. Doesn't matter how many you do at one time, you could add them in through the course of the day. If you can't do a push-up off the floor, put your hands up on the wall and work on perfect push-up form there. And as you get stronger, the elevation comes down. Your hands go down to the countertop. And maybe when you get stronger there, they go down to the coffee table. And maybe after that, you're working your way down to the floor. So we're gonna start with writing everything down that you put in your mouth. Food, drink, doesn't matter. And you're gonna start walking every day. And then you're gonna incorporate just some basic body weight movements. This is the best place to start, regardless of how much weight you have to lose. The next question, and this is a really interesting question. Should I decrease the volume in my workouts when in a deficit? This is an interesting question because I think people think that when you're in a deficit, you're eating so much less food that you're not going to be able to work out. And if that's the case, your deficit's way too big. It shouldn't be like that at all. I would say absolutely no. Don't decrease anything unless you physically feel like you have to. And if you feel that way, look at how big your deficit is first. Because really, when you're in a deficit, your goal from a training perspective is to get as strong as you possibly can while you're in that deficit. And you can make significant strength gains when you're in a deficit. Absolutely. People do it all the time. I did it. That means you're gonna have to push yourself with your workouts, right? It's no time to back off just because you're in a deficit. Now, if you're eating 800 calories a day, that's gonna wear on you, absolutely. And that's not an appropriate deficit. So make sure, number one, that your deficit is appropriate. Take your goal weight, what you want to weigh, multiply that by 12, stick with that number as your deficit, and then go hammer your workouts. Keep focusing on adding weight, improving your technique, progressing every time you walk into the gym wherever you can. And that's what's gonna make the biggest difference on the other side. After you've dropped the weight, you're gonna start seeing some more definition, you're gonna see that muscle start to pop, and your strength is gonna keep increasing more and more and more. So keep hammering at it, do not decrease your volume. So the next question, I love this one. How do I know if I'm actually at a certain weight and it's not just part of a whoosh? This is a really good question because I think this person is coming from a place of comparing their scale numbers day to day to day. Like Monday was at one weight, Tuesday it went down, Wednesday it went down. Oh, is this a whoosh? Did I actually lose weight? Did I lose some fat? Or is it just gonna fluctuate back up? The problem here is with looking at your numbers day to day. That is the wrong way to look at your numbers. Day to day, these numbers don't mean much of anything. What you want to focus more on is comparing your numbers over the course of time, the trends over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, not within that time frame. So any data that you're collecting from day 1 to day 31 is just data. There's no relevance to each other, those Monday to Tuesday, Wednesday to Monday. So from that perspective, don't think of it that way. Whether it's a whoosh or not, you will know because of the trend over time. Now, if you've been hovering at a certain weight for a while and it's not really budged, it stayed where it is, maybe it even spiked a little bit. You're probably holding on to a little bit of water. And so the whoosh is your body releasing water. But over time, you're going to see the fat loss results with the trend over time. And this is why if you use a weight app, like if you use a weigh-in, I use Weight Gurus, you can use whatever weigh-in app you want to use. Those apps can graph your weight. And I love that feature because you can really see the trend from day 1 to day 31 in a graph. You'll see the little spikes up and down. So you're gonna see some of these whooshes, you're gonna see some of these spikes from day in and day out, but over time, from that graph, you're gonna see your starting point was here and your ending point might be down here. But the path to get from point A to point B was all over the place. So that's why it's more important to focus on the trend over time and not worry about an individual drop on the scale. Is that fat or is that a whoosh? You'll know over time exactly what all these drops and spikes mean if you just start focusing on trending over time and not so much focus on the day-to-day scale weight. Okay, so the next question, I love this one. It says, what are some breathe and brace cues for major movement patterns to protect low back? And I love this because this is something that most people don't do. They don't think about. And this breathing and bracing for all your lifts, whether they're compound lifts or accessory lifts, breathing and bracing properly is just gonna make all your lifts better. And it's gonna make you stronger, you're gonna be able to move more weight. So the biggest thing to do is when you take in what we call a big belly breath. So if you watch my belly, you can see it expand. That's a big belly breath, as opposed to a chest breath, which is here, like that. You can see my chest come up. You wanna expand from the belly. Now, the other piece of this is you want to think of your core as a pillar. And when you breathe, you want to fill the entire pillar with air. So it's not just about this part, it's about your back as well. So when you take that breath, You want to think about holding that air in and pushing it not only with your belly, but you want to expand through your back as well. So now you have filled the entire pillar with air, not just your belly or just your back. Now, the thing here is, how do you know that you've done it right? If you inhale and your belly expands, you want to clench that belly like somebody's about ready to punch you in the gut. So my belly right now is really hard, and it's hard for me to talk because I am clenching right now. And some people like to equate this feeling to when you have to poop and you bear down. That's basically what this is. Just don't do the pooping part, right? Just do the bearing down part, like someone's gonna punch you and you're bearing down. That's the support that you wanna feel. I have to focus a lot, for me personally, on the back and really making sure I am pushing air through my back as well. That helps support your back. When you do all of that, whether you're pressing overhead, whether you're deadlifting or squatting, you are now supporting your spine, and your core becomes your power center. And your power center is what's going to help give you power to move weight over your head, to press it in front of you, to pull it, to get it off the floor. So it's a big belly breath. Expand that belly. Pretend like somebody's gonna punch you in the gut so everything is nice and tight. You can also think about pooping, like you have to poop and you're bearing down. You're trying to get some air in your back as well. That position where I'm in right now, you can hear my voice change. That's where you want to be for everything. And if you've watched any of my videos that I take in my stories from the gym, whenever I do, even like I was doing shoulder raises, front raises the other day, and somebody commented, they watched how I breathe before each raise, and literally I do this. Before each raise, I get this set. And this is something that I just do now out of habit. I had to make myself do it. I had to remind myself to do it, but I do it for everything now, and it just helps. So the big belly breath, pretending like you're gonna poop, pretending like somebody's gonna punch you in the gut, get some air into that back too, and really focus on holding that. Okay, the next question, I love this one too. Does menopause change a calorie deficit? This is really a great question, because I think the first thing we think of with menopause is, oh my gosh, thyroid, low thyroid, that's why I'm not losing weight. My metabolism has slowed down, that's why I'm not losing weight. We attribute our lack of success with hormones or something else related to menopause. Some people do have issues. They go to a doctor, they get checked out, they do have, for instance, a low thyroid issue. They get medication to bring their thyroid levels up to normal, and now we're back to square one. People with conditions could have an issue, meaning your deficit number could actually be way lower than someone else. But that doesn't mean you can't lose weight. And so for this question, does menopause change a calorie deficit? For most people, no, it does not. It might make it more challenging to stick with it because of some of the symptoms we have, but it doesn't change a calorie deficit for almost all of us. What we need to change is how we approach our calorie deficit. We need to change our consistency. We certainly need to be more patient with it. Those are the kinds of things that need to change. The number itself may not change. And I want to be clear here. Your metabolism is going to slow a little bit over time, probably, especially if you have not been lifting. Because when you start losing muscle mass, which we all do, by the way, at around age 30, that's when it all starts. When you start losing muscle mass, your metabolism slows a little bit, but it doesn't slow enough to make significant differences for this. So while menopause can make it more challenging, absolutely, yes, 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 it probably is not going to change a calorie deficit number for most people. So that's the good news. If you do have a diagnosed condition, it could be that your numbers would change, and that would be it. But if you think you have a condition or something doesn't feel right, go get checked out. Get the blood panels, talk to your doctor. That's always the first thing. If everything checks out fine, then now you know. Now you know it's up to you. It's get into that calorie deficit, hammer that home, protein, strength train, movement, consistency, patience, all the things you hear me talk about all the time. The last question we're going to talk about today, how long should I wait to make adjustments in my calories when I hit a plateau? I get this question all the time. I think people panic way too early on this one. Even I've had people who've weighed the same for many weeks, and then all of a sudden things change. So here's a rule of thumb. Jordan and I talk about this with our Inner Circle members a lot, and I think this is a great kind of litmus test for you. I think there's some criteria you need to meet before you consider changing your calories at all. Number one, I want you to go for 30 days straight, hitting your calories and your protein 100% of the time, 30 days straight. Without question, you're being accurate, you have control over what you're eating, 30 days straight, 100% consistency. Now, this is for our little experiment here. This is not for you to have to do every day for the rest of your life in order to lose weight. This is a limited amount of time to check where you're really at, okay? So 30 days, 100% consistency. If the scale has not moved at all, and this is a big and, your measurements haven't changed at all, so that means you need to take them every couple weeks. If neither of those have moved at all, and you've been 100% consistent for 30 days, then and only then do you lower your calories from goal weight times 12 to goal weight times 11.5. It's not much of a move, but it could make a difference. But the big issue here is this. You need to make sure you've gone 30 days perfectly consistent. And this is super important because most of the time, these perceived plateaus are nothing more than the reins got a little looser. We had tight reins on our calorie deficit there for a while. You know, we all do, right? And then the reins get loosened up just a little bit here, a little bit there. We don't even realize it, right? We think we're doing the same thing, and we're really not. So it's more of a consistency issue more often than not. And this is the best way to make sure that this is not consistency. That is, in fact, a time for you to lower your calories. 30 days, 100% consistent. The scale has not moved at all. And I mean at all. If it moves even a little bit, something's happening. If your measurements are moving, something's happening. So you don't change. So let's say you've been 100% consistent, the scale's not really moving, but your measurements are. You stay exactly where you are because you're losing fat and you're doing everything right. The scale will catch up, it's gonna do its thing, but if your measurements are changing, you need to stick with it where you are. People lower their calories far too quickly. They get impatient. They think this is a race. They think there's a prize waiting for them at the finish line. They wanna get there, they wanna get there, they wanna get there. And they start reducing and reducing, they can't sustain it, and then they start crawling back up and gaining weight again. I mean, it becomes a disaster. So be patient, take that litmus test. Again, it's 30 days, 100% consistency. You have not lost any scale weight. Your measurements have not changed at all. When you meet that criteria, then go to goal weight times 11.5. This is gonna put it all in perspective, and it's gonna get you, if you need to move down, it's gonna get you moving down to the appropriate number after you've given 100% focus to this. And let's see what happens, because you might find things start to pick up again, which is what we often find when we have these little mini challenges of 30 days. So, I hope these questions have been helpful. I still have some more that I didn't get to, and I'm going to be posting about these because the questions from the Q&A this time, you all, was fantastic, and I really, really, really appreciate you responding to these, and I'll get back to as many of you as I can. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.